we'll go around and introduce ourselves in case you can't see us all. Obviously, you all know who I am, Mary Jones, and I'll go that way down towards the officers.
Apologies. Yeah, I'm Matt Bowyer. I'm the Group Manager for Network Infrastructure.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Councillor Andrew Stevens, Cabinet Member for Environment Infrastructure, Highways and Transport.
Bob Fennick, Group Leader, Highway Maintenance.
Chris Pike, Team Leader, Drainage and Plan Maintenance.
And good morning, and my name is Councillor Michael Locke, representing Sketty Ward.
Liz Jordan, Scrutiny Officer.
Thank you. And Liz, Sarah, we can see you. So would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Oh, morning. I'm Councillor Sarah Keaton for West Cross.
I think it's Will, is it? I can't quite see. Yeah. Is it you, Will?
Yeah. Hi, it is me here. Hi, yeah, Councillor Will Thomas, Mumbles Ward. Thank you.
Chris?
Hi, Councillor Chris Evans, representing Wales Ward.
Sorry, I got a problem with my screen. Sorry, Jess, all I can see is J. I apologise. We should say we are.
That's okay. Jess Pritchard, Councillor for Mynydd-Bach.
And if I've missed anybody, because I have got a label right across the top of my screen. Yeah. So if you can...
Hello.
Oh, yes. Hi.
It's
Oliver.
Hi. Yeah, overlooked. Councillor Oliver James for Cockett Ward.
Thank you all very much. Liz has just managed to do a bit of IT there so I can see everybody now. I apologise for that. Okay, thank you very much. So the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I know we do have some.
Yes, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Bridget Rowlands and Councillor Mike Day and Cabinet Member Andrew Williams.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. Next item is the one that's the standard one, prohibition of votes and declaration of party whips. And then the next one is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 1 to 3. Oh, somebody else has just joined us. Okay, so do you agree that they are a true reflection of the meeting, those of you that were present? Okay, thank you very much. Then the next item on the agenda are the letters on pages 4 to 10. Again, I hope you've all read them and digested them, and we've had the response as well. So the next item on the agenda is public question time. I don't think we have any members of the public. Have you had any submitted, Liz?
No, we haven't received any, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So the next one is the sustainable transport. And so it's you, is it, Councillor Stevens?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'll be brief. I want, as I'm sure all members have read the report, and thankfully I've got Matt here with me today as well. So the report does outline the closure of the sustainable transport strategy, and there is the potential move to the Swansea local transport plan. So I'm sure there'll be further follow-ups on this potential topic in the future, Chair. There is a couple of areas in the report that might be of interest to some members in terms the around things like the Better Points app, which I did think was quite a innovative way to try and encourage sustainable transport. Yeah, so I'm happy to pass on to Matt, Chair, for if there's anything else. But I did want to put on record as well, Chair, but just thanks to Matt and the entire transport team really on the work they do, not just in Swansea but on regional. There's been a lot going on in terms of the regional transport plan and things like that. So yeah, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Have you got anything to add, Matt?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a bit of a further explanation, really. Obviously, we've been working on a sustainable transport strategy for a couple of years now. And whilst initially it was focused at things like staff travel, corporate issues, corporate fleet, that kind of thing, it sort of gradually expands to take in public travel, public EV, all kinds of issues around how people are getting around Swansea. And what we grappled with is ultimately when this kind of strategy gets too big, you end up not being focused enough to be able to affect anything that's really meaningful. So I think in discussion with Andrew, we took the decision that we would be better off to sort of split out the staff and corporate issues into a separate work stream, and then look at the sort of public facing transportation issues, which would then fall out of the regional transport plan, which has been recently approved by the Cabinet Secretary. The regional transport plan covers 5 years, 2025 to 2030. So, I mean, in transport terms, that's not a huge amount of time when you start talking about development of business cases for this kind of thing. So I think it makes sense for us to consider what we, and the royal we, the public, the members, aspire for Swansea to look like in transport terms over the next sort of 10 to 20 years. And that will take into account things that the council can affect, but also take into account things that we can't, like the TfW rail proposals, Swansea Bay Metro, all this type of thing, which if we can sort of consolidate that into a coherent strategy for ourselves, then it will put us in a very good position for when we want to implement our own transportation interventions for going to Welsh Government and asking for the capital money to do it. So that was that's the intention behind splitting it into two separate work packages. And the other item in the report is a note about what's called the Better Points trial, which is it's a South Wales Metro funded trial to try and use sort of gamification to try and encourage people to change their transport habits. They have had very successful trials done in Leeds and Sheffield, I think. And we are looking, it's a relatively small scale pilot. It's only been run out amongst the staff of the 4 local authorities in South West Wales, just to try and give regional officers a flavour for how well it could work, I think. And then, hopefully it's very successful, and then we can look to sort of future rollout across other employers in Swansea or anyone else who's interested, really.
Thank you very much. It's not really a criticism, it's a comment. Please take it. We found it quite difficult to get questions because there's not a lot there. And normally when it's quite a brief report, there's usually a link so that we can read more. I don't know if there was such a document behind it even to read a bit more, but as you can tell, we did get questions. So yes, it was a challenge, we'll admit, but we found that we couldn't find, obviously a benefit to you, but not to us, a lot of questions that we, could ask. And one of the questions I'm sure I've asked you in this room, and it was to do with the electric vehicles or how we could separate, notice Chloe and people. I was trying to remember, and they all remembered me asking the question, but nobody can remember what the question was. And it was about how people use the electric vehicles and how you could differentiate between the mileage and things like that. And I know I did ask that previously, didn't I? I don't know if it's on one of my questions now. Yes, it sort of is, but we'll come to it on number 5. Thank you. So the first question then is from you, Michael. So look.
Right. What are the most significant changes to the new local transport plan will introduce compared with the sustainable transport strategy, and how will these address Swansea specific challenges? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. I think I sort of probably touched on this in the introduction. It's trying to sort of focus ourselves on what are the challenges within Swansea itself and what are challenges for Swansea Council as a business, as an employer, because they're not necessarily the same thing. And in trying to consider them together, that made our lives quite difficult in trying to come up with a coherent strategy. So the regional transport plan has been approved, including a delivery plan. So that takes up to 2030. There's a whole raft of schemes and things in there, which have been suggested in order to improve accessibility and transport around the city and indeed the region. So yeah, it contains an awful lot of baseline data around Swansea and how people travel around Swansea, and then schemes to improve that, and then we would monitor that on an annual basis in order to see how well it's going. And then the intention of the local transport plan is to distill this regional document into something which is more Swansea specific. So you would then look at, I don't know, maybe the TFW proposals for rail, and then how you link in with these proposed stations and that kind of thing, which is a bit more sort of granular in its detail than a regional plan might be.
Thank you. Andrew, do you want to add anything? No. Okay. The next question then is from Councillor Chris Evans.
Hi, good morning all. The first question is, when will we be able to see some specifics about how you're going to measure reductions? And I'm assuming that was sort of carbon reductions.
Thanks, Councillor. As part of the workforce stream of the strategies, baseline data has already been collected for amongst the staff surveys about how they travel, and the intention is to update that as and when. I'm not entirely sure what the timescale is for the updates. Is it yearly? Might be. Would make sense. And the regional plan also contains a comprehensive monitoring and evaluation framework. That's got a lot of indicators as to from driven miles to economic benefit, that kind of thing, just to the benefits of these sort of transport interventions. And again, that's reported back to CJC annually.
Happy with that, Chris? Yep.
Yes, yeah, thanks.
Okay. The next question then is mine. How will the council ensure fair and inclusive access to the Better Point scheme, especially for those who do not have access to the app? And funnily enough, I was in Calais on Saturday and there was a lady complaining, well, I haven't got the internet and I can't get hold of different things in the council. I mean, obviously she wasn't an employee, but there are still pockets of our workforce that don't have access to the app or things like that because of the nature of their job. So, it's in a way we've thought of not, helping those people then.
I think that's the purpose of undertaking a pilot, Chair, to be honest. It's to look at these issues and to make sure that we do have sort of inclusivity of access to this kind of thing. So I mean, whilst the trial I'd imagine it will be aimed at sort of staff that commute, I would have thought, that's my sort of gut feeling. But as I said, the purpose is to run this over a limited pot of people over a limited time and assess what it's doing, and then hopefully we can tease out any issues, sort out any issues in time for any sort of future expansion.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah, just to add on that, in terms of Matt said, it's at an initial trial stage at the moment. As I said in my intro, I did think it was quite a innovative way of trying to encourage different modes of travel, really, and perhaps encourage people out of their car. Even though there may be elements of issues with digital exclusion around certain things with accessing council services, that as you're aware, we do try and do what we can in terms to facilitate that. I don't. Following the trial will actually inform the decisions around that, but I can't see it quite being there with the staff, because my understanding is with this that it can be used on your own personal mobile even, or things like that, in terms of it's just an app sign in. So I would expect it to be very, very small, if any, and we can address any potential issues with that should they arise anyway, yeah.
I have actually got a follow-up question. It's about the rewards, and it says here the points can be redeemed for high street vouchers, discounts at local businesses and charity. All very good, but I hope we're making sure that what we're offering as the reward or the benefit is actually in keeping with the strategy, and not vouchers or something for, I'm not going to say any names, but things that you wouldn't want to be encouraging, because you're trying to encourage people to be healthier, go out and use public transport or bikes or whatever.
Absolutely. We are focusing on smaller local businesses because they typically see increased trade on the back of this kind of intervention. If you've got two people who are going for a coffee, for example, and one's got a voucher, the other one's going to be buying stuff, they might then choose to buy other things to go with their coffee. So typically businesses do see a net benefit to this type of intervention.
Oh, good. That's
Sorry, Chair, just to add, I can't see us offering petrol vouchers or something after the scheme, so don't worry about that.
sorry about that on those people online. It was a comment that wasn't for the wider. Right. The next question comes from Sarah Keaton, Councillor Keaton.
All right. How are we going to engage, or how are you going to engage with stakeholders over the local transport plan? Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. Well, the recent regional transport plan had full stakeholder and public consultation as part of its development. We do recognise that when you develop any plan of this nature, that sort of collaboration with stakeholders and early engagement is absolutely critical in ensuring we get sort of buy-in in terms of what we're trying to do. So we're looking at things like sort of targeted sessions with technical stakeholders, considering sessions with members, special interest groups, access groups, that type of thing, to make sure that everyone's views are considered early on in its development.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's something coming to this STC as well on this initially, so that will be a I think you sit in that STC yourself, Sarah, don't you? So that'll be an initial way to get some messages and get some feedback on the early stages of this anyway.
Yeah, very important. Thank you.
I apologise because my name's down twice. I skipped some questions. So Councillor Chris Evans, I apologise. We have to go back to question 4.
No problem at all. Yeah, so what early practical actions are planned for 2026 to build some momentum on sustainable travel while the full local transport plan is being developed? I'd like to thank you at this point for the bike lockers at the back of the quadrant. That's an absolutely fantastic innovation, and also the cycle storage that was built in as part of the Stover. They're very, very welcome, both of those.
Thanks, Councillor. As I touched on earlier on, the sort of local transport plan aspect of this is a bit longer term. We're looking sort of into the future into an aspirational transportation network. In terms of the immediates, the next 5 years, that's really set out within the regional transport delivery plan. The year 1 plan is going to CJC today, this week, we'll say. And then that will be submitted to Welsh Government end of January, hopefully for approval before we get to any sort of pre-election period.
Yeah, and thanks for your comments on the cycle storage. That's appreciated. And just to add, as you're probably aware, the team are out to consultation, or it might have ended, in terms of cycle storage for residents in certain areas. So we're looking at some potential areas that haven't got off-road cycle parking or anywhere to place their bike other than inside their house, for example, a terraced house. So we're looking at some initial trial areas that we can use some cycle hangers out in the community as well. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Councillor Thomas.
Sorry, Chair, was that for me? Just cut out then.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Thomas.
Super, thank you. Yeah, firstly, I think what the council's achieved with its active travel plan. I mean, I think I'm right in saying this, that Swansea Council has been very successful in bidding for funding for active travel compared to other councils, and it's obviously ambitious in what it's trying to deliver. I think that's needs to be commended, really. So we've seen a lot of improvements to the network. I think that's all fantastic. my first question is, are all the active travel upgrades that the council's got in its proposal, they're all reliant on Welsh Government funding? And the second question is, obviously this management plan is from 2030 to 2050, if I'm correct. Obviously technology is moving quite fast. I mean, I was in a Waymo self-drive car in San Francisco about 6 months ago, and it's absolutely incredible, the technology and how fast it's moving. And obviously they're trialing self-drive cars in the UK as of this year. So I'm just wondering if things like drone taxis and self-drive cars, have you looked at that and how that might impact travel in the future in the county? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. The first one was around active travel. Yeah, we've been very successful over the years in accessing active travel money. To implement the map, we predominantly use active travel fund, although that's not to say that we don't seek funding elsewhere through things like planning gain, other UK government grant pots, that type of thing. But I think for the next couple of years, I think we've got some schemes which are looking directly, well, the active travel fund doesn't exist anymore. It's now the regional transport grant. It's all sort of amalgamated into one. It's not dedicated funding for anything in particular. But yeah, we are considering using Welsh Government money to further the proposal we've got for next year. Self-driving cars is an interesting one. I agree with you. Things are moving very, very quickly. I mean, we're still at a position in Wales where we can't promote things like scooters because it requires legal change, doesn't it? And that doesn't happen quickly. But the intention is that the plan would be adaptable enough for us to be able to change in respect to sort of changing technologies and things moving forward.
Okay, happy with the answer?
Flying taxis hasn't quite made it into the plan then.
It'd be handy in Mumbles, wouldn't it? With your lack of parking in some places. Right, okay. So the next question is mine again, which is what I was referring to earlier. What is the deployment plan for EV pool vehicles and workplace charging in 2026? And how will the council ensure they're fully utilised?
I did catch up with the fleet manager before this just to see where we were. The fleet utilisation review is ongoing at the minute, and that's considering the whole fleet, looking to sort of rationalise what we have and look where we've got underutilisation of vehicles and vehicles that are dedicated to a service that perhaps could be better used if it was a shared resource, that kind of thing. From the point of view of workplace charging, the new back office should be ready to be launched at some point in the next couple of months. And then once that's happened, we can then start collecting data on the usage of our charge points with a look to things like vehicle dwell times, that sort of thing. And then once we've got a better view of the capacity available within those charge points, we can then look to roll that out to what capacity there would be for other users to use them, such as staff. So you might say we've got a charge point in this depot, the vehicles are out all day, so we know you've got a window of this much time when it could be available for staff, and then the mechanism for allowing staff to do that and sort of cross-charging, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, if we're rolling out and we're promoting electric vehicles, if you work in somewhere like Cave Street or those, you've got, you know, the charging points there for our vehicles. But somebody working here, I don't know how many points we've got, but we haven't got that many. If you think, you look at all the people that are in here today, nobody can actually park. We don't seem to have enough. All right, I'm not saying anything. I can see you pointing, Councillor Stevens. We don't seem to have enough points for people that work desk bound. They're all out in the depots mainly, and obviously I'm thinking of the depot move, because obviously that's been to planning. That's going to be even further away for anybody, you know, to utilise if they were working here. So how are we going to get around this particular point of putting more charging bays in in an acceptable, locality.
I think, as I said, Chair, we are assessing what we have to see what capacity there is within that asset. I mean, also, as Councillor Thomas said in his previous question, technology is moving so quickly that we're already looking at sort of 300-mile range cars as a norm, and we're not far off 1,000-mile range batteries. So when the people won't have the requirement to charge their car every day. I mean, for the vast majority of car drivers, you're looking at once a week, once every 2 weeks. So it's not the sort of thing that we need to be providing EV charge points for every single person who's got a car, because there won't be the need to charge your car that often.
The next question now is from me again, because obviously I've asked, Sarah's asked hers. This is what Mike Day unfortunately couldn't be here today, and this is what he would like to have asked. What links are there with other departments, organisations in connection with the strategy or local transport plan? For example, for education, are we asking contractors who provide transport to introduce themselves electric vehicles? And for planning, how can we ensure new housing developments become more travel sustainable with better public transport? And I actually made that point because I know, obviously, through sitting on planning as well, we have big developments, but we don't get the public transport into them, or if we do, it's not regular enough for it to be, or it finishes. We've got this problem, that's an age-old problem, that it finishes at 6 o'clock. Well, you're very car dependent on some of them, and because you come to planning.
Okay, so start with the education inputs. We currently don't insist on EVs for home to school transport because I think that's prohibitive at the moment. We are amending our procurement strategy though to include that as part of our options appraisal. That's difficult at the minute, isn't it, with things like taxis? Because if you are asking that people do it and the cost becomes then prohibitive, it becomes difficult for the council. Although we do have a lot of sort of hybrid taxis now, that kind of thing. So we are greening the contractor fleet that we use. Other departments, absolutely. We work very closely with planning. They are currently developing the LDP2. We've done a lot of work with them on that, looking at things like site accessibility for the new candidate sites in the whole. Can it be accessed by sustainable means? What improvements would need to be made to make it accessible? That kind of thing. It's a step change to what's been done in the past, where it's called predict and provide. So essentially what you used to do in planning terms is you look at how much traffic you think it's going to produce and then work out how much road you need to cater for that. But time has moved on now, and now you're sort of more concerned with a vision for what you want a development to be, and then how do you achieve that in transportation. Like you said, does it have a bus service? Does that bus service run into the nights? Is it connected to things to reduce the need to travel by private car? Are we locating developments close to transport nodes in the first place? That would make life a bit easier, wouldn't it? If you've got a busy transport node and we develop close to it, so to reduce the need to travel by car from the off. So, but yeah, we do work very close with planning colleagues. I completely agree, Councillor.
Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And in terms of transport and you're aware of the constraints and difficulties we can have in terms of with the bus services at the moment. But we're also going to be the first region in Wales really to to take on the bus franchising, which will hopefully give us greater control in terms of where our buses will be stopping and which communities and which areas they'll be going to. So providing we've already expressed our willingness to look at over and above the initial base network that's been put forward by TfW. So there is hopefully going to be some changes on the horizon, even granted it'll take a little bit of time. So.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, again, I'm asking on behalf of Mike Day, and you've answered, I think, part of it actually, because you've made reference to public transport being more accessible. Has there been an evaluation of the free bus travel scheme that has taken place? And is there a possibility of expanding this scheme? That's part A. And part B was, are there other ways public transport can be made more accessible and affordable for people, which I think we've asked or had the answer as well in the previous question. But unless you want to enlarge on that, thank you.
I don't have the data on the evaluation or anything, Chair, but I know it's been an extremely popular scheme. I think just off the top of my head, I think there was, if I remember one of the previous PRs around it, there was over 100,000 or 120,000 journeys during like the Easter school holidays period. So it's, you know, again, it's proven to be extremely popular. It's certainly something that I would like to see us continue wherever possible. But and as you're aware, there's also Welsh Government recently brought in the £2 cap on fares as well, which will all just goes towards making public transport a much, you know, preferred offer, really, you know, of making ensuring it's affordable, and hopefully with the bus franchising changes that are coming, reliable as well. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything?
No, Chair, I think I just covered all of it.
Does anybody else have a question? It's Will, sorry. Councillor Thomas. You've got a yellow thing behind you and your hand on my screen is right on the yellow jersey, so I can't see it.
There you go, I'll move it there. Yeah, sorry. As this is scrutiny and, you know, we are scrutinising the council, I just want to reinforce my earlier point. I mean, we're talking about bus franchise changes going in 10, 20 years. And, you know, self-drive cars, do we need a bus network when you've got a network of self-drive taxis, you know? And I think the council should seriously look at that and do some bit more research, in my opinion, because over the next 10, 20, 30 years, you might not need buses. So that was just a point. Thank you.
Does anybody want to come back on that? Go on, Councillor Stevens, go on.
Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, appreciate the thanks for the comment. Well, but yeah, I remember seeing some videos around the self-driving taxis and that in San Francisco. They certainly look quite you know, interesting tech. You know, I can't see the taxi fraternity in Swansea agreeing with you on that one really, but you do still have to remember that even in terms of self-driving cars or taxis, in terms of, I'm sure they will potentially have a place in the future of our roads. There is, you're still going to need, in terms of public transport, larger scales that can take multiple people, because you can still really only get what? How many were there? You were in the taxi in San Francisco to where was there? To where per car?
Yeah, but you don't just have to have one. There's not going to be one in a network. You could have, you know, you could have a continuous loop of 50 cars going around in the same network as the bus route. You know, it's I think you need to. This is what my point is. You have to kind of try and think outside the box here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and just you only need one. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll still be needing buses as well. So thank you.
Okay, we've got Councillor Keaton and then Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I have to respond about the taxis. Even a self-driving taxi, if it's electric, it's still going to take up more energy to drive 2 people around than a whole bus. So I think we'll always have space for buses, and they're also more sociable. I mean, don't underestimate, we're isolating ourselves enough in this world without adding to, we'll all be in our own separate boxes moving from A to B. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same as Councillor Keaton. I was just going to point out that it's going to take a lot more resources to run a fleet of, say, 50 self-driving cars than it is to to run one bus in the future. You're still also going to have the problems with space and traffic jams, because if you put 50 people into a bus, it's going to take up a lot less space on the roads than it would, say, 25 self-driving vehicles. So there's, I can see the reasoning behind it, but there's also reasons why mass transport is better than kind of individual, but there is space for both.
Thankfully, I'm not sure it'll be a problem for me. Councillor Locke.
Right, I'd just like to echo the last comments from Chris, really. The key word is mass transit. So because mass transit, we still need buses. But there is scope for taxis, these driving taxis, especially when you go in the cross urban areas. Like I live in Scetty, so to get to Forest Far is actually quite tricky. But to get into the centre of Swansea is much easier.
I don't think we'll use them for school transport, which was one of the earlier questions. Okay, has anybody else got any questions before we finish on this section? No? Well, thank you both very much for attending, and we are now going on to local flood risk management, which, as you're all aware, I have a keen interest in. So the first question, oh, sorry, did you want to say something, the Cabinet Member or Bob?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, again, I won't go too into depth. It's just the report provides our annual update on how we're managing local flood risk. Covers the work being delivered on the ground through our drainage and maintenance programmes, and the schemes we are developing for Welsh Government flood and coastal erosion risk management funding, as well as the wider pressures we're dealing with from climate change, and as we can all see, in particular this last winter, the more intense rainfall, the cold weather, and so there's not only the pressures that's putting on the team around drainage, but also the impact that's having elsewhere on our highways and roads at the moment. So I've got nothing further to add, rather than to put on record my thanks to Bob, Chris, and their teams for the outstanding work they're doing on our highways network and right across the board on a daily basis, Chair. So thanks.
Thank you. So I don't know if it's Bob or Chris or both of you.
Yeah, excuse me, bit of a cough, so my voice isn't clear today. One slight update to the report on 2.2 Welsh Government funding. We've applied for construction grant on Brockhole Stream. That's been applied for. We don't know whether we've got it yet. And we can upgrade King Rosier Park. That is just in the detailed design stage and finishing off now, as is West Street and Gorsinan. We hope to bid for those in construction 27-28. We were hoping to get them out this year, but it hasn't happened. So 27-28 for King Rosier and West Street, and that's what we're looking for. There's also a couple of extra items to add on there. There's a separate stream of grant funding. Sorry, those changes have happened very, very recently, so it's subsequent to us doing the report. There are two other schemes that we should have mentioned. They're outside the normal flooding remit, but they concern flooding. It's the Resilient Road Scheme, which Matt's team and Dave's team run for us. But we put bids in for Llangewy Corner and for Calais. They're not mentioned in the report because they're not strictly flood funding, but they're both concerning flooding. And we've got the survey. We're waiting for the survey. It's underway on Llangewy. It's an extensive survey of catchment and all the flooding areas around the whole area to try and work out what's going on and where we can try and maybe do something to change the situation. And with Calais, we've got a detailed design going on for the relief programme there. We're hoping that will come out, be approved, and get funding for implementation fairly quickly, because it's quite a priority for us, as I'm sure Mary will appreciate. So those two slight updates. Otherwise, nothing really to add. It's an annual programme. I would say that we've lost Mike Sweeney, who you all know if you've been here before. He'd been our flood lead for at least 10 years, and prior to that had been a design engineer and drainage for at least another 10. So extreme amount of experience loss. I would say I'm really happy with Chris stepping up. He came on for the planned maintenance side, so focus on obviously road resurfacing. So it's a bit of a learning curve for managing the drainage side, but we've got some very good drainage engineers working under him. Jack Davis particularly has stepped up a bit, and you know he's working on the plans and all the details. So there may be questions we can't answer completely thoroughly this year. But we'll obviously return with writing if there's anything we can't answer. But so Mike is a bit of a loss, but everything seems to be carrying on fairly well, and this team are gelling together quickly. So I don't think it's going to majorly affect us. It's just a little bit of loss of knowledge on some things. It's going to take us longer to respond on maybe. But there we go. That's my update.
Chris, do you want to update anything or just answer the questions? Okay, thank you. Right, so the first question is for Councillor Chris Evans.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for the positive news on Brockhole, and also big thanks to the team for the proactive work at Brockhole, Westport, and Wentworth. It's sort of really made a difference over this winter. So after that, what are the top 3 priority actions in the new local flood risk management strategy? When is consultation with stakeholders due to begin, and who are the stakeholders?
Okay. We assumed you meant the top priorities in terms of actions rather than like particular schemes, etc. And as you said, you mentioned Brockhole. It's our number 1, but we don't know if we'll get the money. It's about a £5 million scheme if we get the funding for it. In terms of priorities from the flood action plan, top 3 we would say are implementation of drainage schemes in communities most at risk with a history of flooding, so it refers back to the grant applications. Second one would be prevent further communities from being at risk by avoiding construction of developments in areas of flood risk. So obviously that liaises with Matt's team fairly heavily. I should add, in terms of an update, one of the big changes this year is the SAB team have moved within their position in the department. SAB team have moved from under drainage and myself to under Matt, and they now sit alongside the highways development team. So we've got highway development, flood development, all working very closely with planning now. We thought it was more important to put them with the planners and the developers and those people making, I would say, the problems, rather than us sitting with maintenance where we're trying to fix things. So we think it's been a positive move. But again, should maybe mention that, but it's a structural thing that you shouldn't necessarily see. So that was the second point: prevent further communities from being flooded. Third point: undertake regular maintenance and inspection of flood risk assets. I think that's key to us. We have had extra funding over the last few years. I'm really glad to announce that it's been solidified, so it's in our budget line, our baseline going forward. So the guys, the small team that have been tasked explicitly with going around the watercourses, looking at the improvements they can make, how they can make things safer for operatives to clean them during flood conditions. Very, very well received team. They've had lots and lots of compliments from where they've been at the site and done work. But from the workforce perspective, they also make things safer. So that's been an absolute benefit to us, and the work they've done on some of the culverts it's just noticeable. You see it's cleaner, it flows better, you don't get the problem. So I think it's a small change, but I think that's been really good. And we're certainly working with other services, because in terms of flood assets, they sit within all council departments. So housing have got flood assets, parks have got flood assets, we have education have got some. We've got a similar system now in place for all of us, and we advise on best ways to deal with things, and we will help if there's issues. We can't take responsibility for them, but we'll help and advise on those issues. So the inspection and maintenance flood assets goes across the whole authority rather than just within our service. I'd say those are the 3 main points. There's about 25 actions as part of the flood plan. So there's quite a lot to choose from, but those are definitely the 3 main ones. In terms of stakeholders, in terms of consultation, I assume you're meaning the new report as it comes out. We're changing the changing of the flood risk management plan it's changed in that it's not a printed document that runs from a set period to a set period anymore. the new risk strategy is all based on a live document that we will update consistently and continuously. So it's matching the way all the other authorities across Wales are presenting flood risk data. Not quite certain when that's going to start, but it won't be long. It's certainly within the next financial year it will happen. And who are the stakeholders? Main stakeholders, obviously Welsh Government and NRW. Welsh Water, another one. Cadw, obviously members, councillors, residents. So it's anyone who gets affected by flooding, which is all of us effectively. So that's the consultancy, but it will obviously have to start Welsh Government and NRW, because Welsh Government are the ones that provide most of the funding for this, and NRW are the ones that provide most of the obstructions. I stand by that. Yep.
Right, yeah, thanks very much.
Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. And I just wanted to thank the team, really, Jack, Chris, Bob, and everyone, because of one of the schemes that's just been completed in Caswell on a residential areas. There was 4 houses that had been flooded. I think it was 3 times over the last 5 years. So literally every time there was a weather warning, you know, everyone was really stressed, and as you can imagine, they had to move out of their houses for a year, some of them. So it does make a huge difference, the work you do, and I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the constituents, because they are really, really happy, and I just wanted to pass that on. So thanks very much. When we have drainage issues in schools, is that part of the same plan, or do the schools have to? Does the council look at the work they do in schools in a separate way? That's just a question I had, because we've got an issue in one of the schools in my constituency. Thanks.
Each service or landowner, I suppose, within the authority manages its own land. Although Chris's team, including Jack as the lead officer, there are sort of key point for land drainage. Now, this goes for the public and all services. We provide advice, assistance, guidance. So we're available to all schools, education. We work with some of the education maintenance team, and we've done quite a bit of advice for them previously on culverts and watercourses within school grounds. But again, we're really happy to advise on that. Can't take the control of it or the repairs over, but we can advise and suggest what needs to be done. So advice rather than responsibility, but we do have a risk-based system for looking at watercourses. That has definitely been shared with education, housing and parks. So watercourses are all prioritised, whether it's gone down to individual schools. But again, we're happy to share that if that's something they're interested in. You know, any particular school comes here, and we'll give the advice and try and help them out.
Okay, happy with that? Okay, thank you. The next question is from myself, but again, obviously I've got to add my thanks that Calais is now coming to the top of the pile, and keeping our fingers crossed that you'll have the money in the next financial year in April, so that you can, it is out to consultation, the scheme. Again, you can't make an omelette without cracking the eggs, and people are not happy that there's going to be diversions and different road, but there's no other way around it. If we're going to have to do this scheme, there's going to be some disruption, and you know, we just, as local councillors, just want the scheme, you know, finished with. So thank you very much for all the work. It's taken quite a number of years and different iterations, but we're getting there. So I think my question actually is a little bit about that. With delays in business cases for certain flood schemes, what interim mitigation measures are in place to support the most at-risk communities? And then there's another bit I'll read out after. That's Mike Day actually asking.
Okay, my first is obviously comment with delays in business cases. For me, I can't say that's a delay. It's a long process, and it is very frustrating to us as officers of the council how long the process takes and how many steps in it is. This is something we've fed back regionally and nationally many times. The the fact that there are so many stages, each stage has to be approved, each stage can be challenged, then you have to go back through that process again. Then you have to do more design and potentially change things. Brockhole Stream's a prime example. We're actually at the second iteration of our detailed design. It was finished some 6 or 7 years ago, but because it didn't meet the cost benefit, it was held off, and flooding situations have changed, rainfall's increased. Therefore, the capacity of the original design was questioned. If we're going to build it, we might as well redesign it and build it to the latest standards. So you end up through this iterative process, which is very frustrating for us on the ground. Obviously, because I manage both routine and planned maintenance, in terms of the interim measures, we've obviously had the extra funding to bring in proactive cleaning, which has really helped with surface water. We've also got the team, as I've mentioned before, who has gone around and he's cleaning the water courses proactively, making small improvements, changing grids. So all the little things that have normally take a while to go through a capital program are being dealt with on a weekly basis now. So those, I'd say, those have really helped. The work with cleansing, where they provide preventative sweeping. So when we get a rain warning now, we have some of the sweepers going around the routes that traditionally cause flooding problems due to leaves. So Glanmore Hill is an example, leading into uplands and leading to Costa. That's swept now before every heavy rainfall, and it's certainly reduced the flooding. It's not going to stop it, but those are the mitigation measures we have in place. Here we go.
And sorry.
Yes, sorry to sorry, just to come in on that, Chair, in terms of what Bob said around the drainage, because we were very keen in bolstering our drainage, the gully suckers that we have, to ensure we get kept on to try and minimise any potential issues, and just to go one step further in terms of what Bob said I don't think everyone sees the work that goes on behind the scenes to ensure that a number of these high risk areas doesn't get flooded, into right down to the fact that we've got access to our rainfall radar at certain areas across Swansea that'll give, not always 100%, but pretty near in terms of pre-warning to the team, so they can ensure that, one, they get additional crews in, two, that the hotspot areas that do have the problems are cleaned effectively, and to try and minimise any potential problems. So a lot of work does go on behind the scenes, and perhaps not even you as members see exactly, but I certainly do. And it's they're doing fantastic work in that Chair. So I think I said in council a couple of months back, actually. So
Okay, thank you. And I think we'll all agree we do see them out a lot more often. I see them obviously going down Gower Road when there's a heavy warning. So yes, I think you've got to keep on top of it, but it's the toll of keeping on top of it as well. So we do appreciate it. The second bit is well, both from Mike and myself, because we both had the same issues. Can you clarify the different responsibilities of the different bodies involved and what this is? We know you've got drainage, but you've also got NRW, we've got Welsh Water, we've got somebody else. And how can we work with, we might be doing a wonderful job trying to keep our areas, but if you haven't got the support of the others, and Chris will know one of the areas we've got in Calais, it's not just us that's trying to, not Gower Road, somewhere else. It's somebody else's responsibility as well, and sometimes they're not always as receptive, shall we say, to what we're trying to do, and they don't see it as a priority until somebody's home is flooded.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to watch what I say on this one, because I've got very strong opinions, which maybe not be fit for scrutiny. In terms of the different people with responsibility in terms of flooding, we do have a very good page online which sets out flood advice note guidance. It explains there who is responsible for different sections of water. In short, local authority, we're the lead local flood authority for what they call normal water courses. So it's the smaller streams, very small rivers, streams, ditches, the sort of natural water courses that have been there to take drainage away. We are the overseeing body for those. NRW then cover the larger rivers, larger water courses. So it's a similar function between us and them, but they deal with the big stuff, we deal with the small stuff. Welsh Water obviously deal with their assets, so that's both freshwater, stormwater, foul. We do have our own drainage assets and pipes in the ground. We connect into Welsh Water, they connect into us. It's a bit of a mess of a system. There are thousands of miles of drainage pipe underground. We don't know where they all are, but between us, we try and sort of work it out. Say NRW have jurisdiction over rivers, marine areas, and then there's the private property owners. And I think this is really important for us. Surface water flooding is a private issue for the landowner. So on all the issues where houses get flooded, that's been mentioned this morning, our work there is to assist because we can. Our road drainage is there to drain the road. If water floods off the road naturally through gradient and goes into a property, that's the property owner's problem. That's not an easy thing to explain to people. It's not a presumption that everybody has. Certainly the responsibility is always flagged our direction. We will try and assist where we can, whether it's through advice from Jack's team in terms of land drainage, or whether it's by redirecting some highway water where it's possible. I lost count of the number of small road humps we've built across driveways over the years, but it has to be pretty exceptional for us to get involved, because really, I say it's a private issue. There should be a drain at the top of a sloping driveway. And if you think of Swansea with the hills, the number of houses that are below road level is quite a lot. We can't take responsibility for all of them. So I think that's a huge thing for us, is it the constant battle to explain people expectations and who's responsible for certain things. And while we will try to do what we can, we are limited, particularly when the highway side of things, where we're limited to the adopted highway. And there are many private estates out there that we have no responsibility for at all. So that's how it sits. SUDS as well, so is an extra responsibility there. Obviously, the SAB team are responsible for new developments, looking at that, making sure sustainable drainage is taken on. I think that covers it.
Okay, thank you, Ron. That's actually given a really good response, and I think it's quite simple for people to understand that. And as you said, we know that when homes or businesses get flooded, it is a very difficult thing to tell them, well, you've got, especially when it's elderly people in their homes and they have to move out, it's extremely distressing. And we can't really turn around and say, well, sorry, it's your fault, when we know the road has flooded and people driving along the road causing the waves as well, of course, issues. So yes, I think we, as long as we can do our best. The next question then is from, sorry, Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, no, just wanted to add to what you, to what you said, even though, if, maybe we don't have the legal responsibility or what have you, in certain cases, it is the right thing to do anyway, and help, as Bob said, assist, will help where we can. And I'm sure all you and everyone here as members will be wanting to do that. I mean, same case in point really goes back to, in terms of the sandbags, we don't have to provide sandbags. You could turn around and tell someone, well, you're in a potential risk area, you should go and get your sandbags before, but people don't. So it was a conscious decision in terms of us making sure that there's sandbags somewhere in the locality with members, if possible, for the residents could pick up if they're in a bit of an issue. Or I think some more team fund them from community budget, things like that. We did also fund some a year or so back from the highways budget. So we just, even though we don't have to, we do try and go that extra step where possible. So yeah.
Yeah, Bob, because you just reminded me when you said about community sandbags, we had an issue where we were quite prepared to do it as the councillors for Dunban and Calais, and where we wanted to put them was a different part of the authority, and they were not very helpful. And we haven't got a lot of space anyway. We haven't got a community building as such, but it was a community asset within Calais, so it caused a little difficulty. So, and you can't put them in my garden.
Can I just respond to Andrew there, just to sort of clarify that, yes, we did have extra funding to provide stockpiles of sandbags. That went out to all councillors, and those councillors that asked us to provide them, we've given, I think it was 100 bags at a time, and we've restocked a couple of times. That was a one-off process. What I would say is we're more than happy to supply any councillor that wants to continue with that. We would charge for it, but it's minimal cost. Long as we know where they're going. We use one of our other teams that is funded. We don't charge for the delivery. It'll just be a straightforward price of sandbags, and we can stock them up and give them beforehand. What I would say to do, if you want to do it when it's dry. Very difficult to do when we're under flooding situations. And obviously when there are situations where there are high pressure flooding, we do have a stock of sandbags at the depot that are retrievable by the public. So if somebody is in desperate need, they can come and get them from us. We won't charge them. We'll keep that, we try and keep that restocked, but it does obviously go down. But we're not able to react in emergency situations because generally there's situations on the road that we have to deal with. So yeah, we're happy to try and help where we can within reason. No responsibility for doing it. So sometimes it has to be a hard answer.
Thank you. I think Councillor Stevens mentioned the community budget. So, you know, if we had to use that, you know, it's a good way of paying towards the bags if needed. So, right, we're going to Councillor Keaton now. Sorry, Councillor Keaton.
Yes, before I start, can I again say how absolutely grateful we are for Mike Sweeney, who's left, but Jack and Bob and Chris, they were amazing. We had the most terrible flooding at this neck of the woods, and whatever they did with the drains, it was wonderful. But also, it was how they dealt with people beforehand. Mike was brilliant. He spent hours walking around people's gardens, listening to them. It's like a counselling session because they'd all been flooded or close to flooding and they were terrified. And Jack came and sat in our community centre, surrounded by angry, frightened people, and he was very reassuring and he was very, very patient. And then, of course, they went on and did the work. So thank you so much because it makes such a difference to people. So I had to say that. Now I'll get on with the question. How is the council managing the increased workload arising from TAN 15 and rising SAB applications, and what resource gaps remain in 2026? Thank you.
It was you, Matt.
This is me, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, as you said, TAN 15 has placed additional burden on every planning application that comes in because applicants are now required to submit full drainage strategies which need to be assessed. As Bob's already touched on, the first thing that we've done, I mean, Mike Sweeney leaving sort of made us have a little think about where it's at, but that's the first thing, is to bring down the SAB team to sit with highway development management, because there's a lot of crossover there. It allows us to reduce where crossover of sort of staff responsibility. For example, if we've got an inspector on site inspecting highways, then they can also inspect the drainage items. It doesn't make any sense for us to send two people to do two different jobs. So we're looking to make better use of existing staff is number one. We do still have some vacancies there, which we are actively trying to fill, because we are aware that there is a significant volume of applications and statutory response times and all of this that we've got to adhere to.
Thank you.
Councillor Thomas, I noticed your hand go up just as I'd called Councillor Keaton previously, and then we went back to Bob. So was it on the previous question, Councillor Thomas? If so, you can ask your question, or if it's on Sarah's, carry on. Councillor Thomas, are you on mute?
Seems to have gone, Chair.
Yeah, this very small mic, so I've got to keep looking on Liz's laptop to see who's here. Right, okay, so in that case, we'll go to you, Councillor Evans, for your question, and if we find Will, we'll go back to him.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that's been covered in previous answers.
Okay, thank you. So it's back to me, and I've got a feeling it wasn't particularly my question, but I'm asking it. Could Section 106 monies be used to improve wider drainage networks? I know, obviously, we get it for highways I'm still waiting for traffic lights, and for education and things like that. So do you use it for drainage as well?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, we can. I mean, Section 106 is a mechanism to make something which would otherwise be unacceptable in planning terms acceptable. So providing that whatever we were suggesting could meet the sequential tests of reasonableness, proportionality, and being directly related to the development, then yes, if as a consequence of the development, local networks would be over capacity, then I can't see any reason why you couldn't use 106 to ameliorate that.
Okay, so the next one is from Councillor Chris Evans.
Yeah. How will shifting to the 6 communities at risk register based high risk areas change prioritisation compared with the previous ward based approach? And what impact will this have on delivery?
I'm going to be straightforwardly and honest here that I had to ask Jack for this one. It's very much in the detail of how we deal with things. What he said was that the 6 strategic flood risk areas are based on topography and river catchments in Swansea, across car boundaries and wards. Prioritising funding has always been based on risk and history of flooding, rather than a car rating and a ward-based approach. So we're highlighting schemes in each ward previously. We will still do the same. However, with this new approach, we can identify schemes that have benefits across wards and across car boundaries. Due to the nature of the catchments, it makes more sense. Delivery of schemes will not be affected by this change. I don't think there's anything I can really add to that. I think he's covered it. I would say, just in terms of what Andrew mentioned earlier, with our rain forecast model, we do pay for a model that's based on catchments. So it's very much a similar process. So rather than getting a rain map which tells us how much rain we're going to be getting today over hour by hour in specific communities or wards, it's all based on the catchment where the flooding occurs. So we'll get a prime example. We get a rainfall forecast for Kumbulla roundabout, and that is based on the catchment that leads to Kumbulla. And over this period where the third party problem has occurred, that has been massively useful because we can predict fairly accurately when it's going to cause a problem. I was asked last night, did I think it was going to flood? We watched it all night. We had crew watching the levels, but it didn't. And it was pretty close to what we were predicted. So the catchment idea with us is pretty grounding anyway. So I don't think it'll make a huge difference.
Okay.
Thanks very much. It absolutely makes sense. So.
It does actually, but it's something the obvious you don't always see. Right, Councillor Keaton, we're back to you.
Okay. Have we got any flood and coastal erosion risk management schemes currently in development?
Yes, they're all in the report. The grant funding that we applied for in 2.2, those are all under that scheme. So Brockhole, Birchgrove Road, Capel Road, King Rosier, West Street, Beryl Street, Western Street, they're all part of that funding. And it is a difficult, long-winded process.
Yeah, so I've gathered. Thank you.
When we wrote the question, I'm not certain that was what we were asking, but obviously Sarah wasn't in the meeting and we were trying to think of the coastal erosion bit of it, but as you said, you've answered it for the other bit. So
I'd have to feedback on coastal erosion. I'm not aware of any major schemes coming forward.
I think it started with mumbles, you know, and we were sort of thinking along those lines.
We do have a pot of money every year. There's capital money that sits and waits for a problem with coastal erosion. I'm not aware of anything major at the moment. I can double check, but yeah, not aware of anything.
Okay, thank you. Next question then is from Councillor Locke.
Right. Given the national shortage of drainage engineers, what are the steps in the council? What steps in the council taken to secure the skills needed to deliver the local flood management strategy, LFRMS, and manage growing SAB and planning demands?
Yeah, very good question. And I think this covers Matt's area as well. You're completely right. Getting drainage engineers is difficult. To talk about our team, Mike was poached and went to Torvine. Jack came from Bridgend, so it does move around within local authorities, and we do poach from each other. Obviously, that's not very helpful to the overall. We're developing a very good relationship with Swansea University. I mean, I'm a Swansea University graduate, and I live very close. Family work there, so it makes sense. And we've reached out to them. We've had several meetings with them over several issues. But I am giving some help now. We will be guest lecturing at their third year lectures on flooding, on flood risk management. We'll be taking local photographs of the problems, trying to get people interested. We might not get the best graduates or the highest graduates, because obviously private sector can offer more money, but we do have a lot to offer here in terms of job satisfaction, in theory, long-term security, long-term prospects within a job, and long-term responsibility for an issue. So you see things from the ground up. You see the initial stages, the investigations, the meeting with people, the development of the scheme. We try and sell this, so we will go to university job fairs. We haven't done any yet, and we've also now tapped into the jobs bulletin board at the university. The one other thing I would say there, we've got a couple of graduates also from Trinity St David that did civil engineering degrees, so it's not been quite as straightforward to get contact with them, but certainly trying to develop the relationship with the university to look at students coming through there. I think we've had placements, so I think you've had a couple of placements that were very good, and I'll say that for you. The last thing I would say is the other thing we're looking at is crossovers. So if you're looking at SAB, or if you're looking at flood risk management plans, there's a lot of crossover with maybe geography, environmental management. So there's other degrees out there that may be just as suitable. And we've had a couple of geography graduates apply to us in other posts recently with first class degrees. So although only one person got the job, we've kept their details and we're passing them on to Matt. So when he goes out for similar functions, it may not be we've got a drainage engineer, but we've got somebody who's very good with GIS, spatial awareness, which is great for catchment studies. So there's a lot of options, but yeah, there's a shortage, and we'll take anything we can to try and work with it.
Just hope there's geography graduates coming through, because it seems to be a subject in school that's not being taken up so much in the sixth form. Unfortunately, it's like a lot of the subjects that we studied at school. They're newer ones now with an ology on the end. So yes, I agree with you. And even if they were doing geology, I would assume they could help you out.
I think I prefer a geographer than a geologist,
yes,
but then again, geology it's got other advantages. We did, as an engineering degree, you will study geology as part of your course. So yeah, there was a bit of crossover, but geographers, particularly for flood risk, is useful.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so the last question goes to Councillor Chris Evans.
So the question is, are we using the best technology for the future? To provide a bit of context, I was in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia in November, and what they have there at the side of the road is a 4-foot deep channel that's about 1 foot or 1.5 foot wide, covered with like metal mesh, that allows massive amounts of water to be taken away very quickly, rather than sort of using small drains and piping. And I was wondering, with rainfall due to increase in the future, would it be best to move to something similar to that?
Yeah, it's not what I was expecting the question to be, but I'd happily take a site visit to go and have a look. I think in technology for flooding and drainage, there's lots of avenues. We've invested in a new drainage system that cates all the gullies, records when we're cleaning them, looks at that. We're able to then add camera surveys to it. We're able to add, as we do drainage investigations and find out where things are, we're able to add that to it. So in terms of a management information system, we've got a pretty good system that's relatively new. We've installed cameras on some of our worst culverts, so the ones that flood the most regularly, 2 or 3 of them that are real issues. We were having lots of calls out to go and get them cleaned when we knew we'd already cleaned them. And actually the camera, then we can switch the camera on, have a look, and we can see that the culvert's flowing and there's no debris there, so that we know that the call's out date and we don't have to visit. So that also gives good examples of flow. And one of the examples again would be the culvert just upstream from Kumbulla. Now we've got a camera on that. We know what the flow's like. So in arguments about causation and flow rates and how much going through that footage has been very, very useful. So yeah, camera installations. There's 2 or 3 around I think there's 3 we've got around the authority in our worst places. In terms of the design of drainage, obviously we're a little bit restricted now with SAB, that we have to look at sustainable drainage anyway. That's still a very developing and new field. And we've got a few issues from some of the sustainable drainage come in that I've got to come back and talk to Matt about, where things have gone in as designed, but they're causing other issues that we didn't think of. So that's an extra challenge. In terms of making capacity there for drainage, I completely agree with you. Whether it's putting a concrete channel in or just up in the size of the pipes and the ducting that's required, I certainly think we should be designing with a lot more resilience, a lot more capacity, because at the end of the day, when you're building something, doubling the capacity doesn't cost much. Going back and doing it later in the day is a huge thing. And we are certainly having conversations with our designers about this. If we do a road scheme, increasing the number of gullies, it might not increase the capacity, but it increases the resilience against leaf fall. And 60% of our road flooding is generally down to leaves on drains rather than actual blockages. Obviously not the worst areas, but yeah, I think you're completely right. I think we need to look at it. I've seen a similar example of a system in a very arid area, but just downstream from a volcano. So in heavy temperature, heavy rainfall, the water coming down there goes from nothing to something the size of the Towie, and the bridge had been washed away several times, and the amount of drainage capacity there. And I think you'll see this in films in America with the big flood relief culverts that they have. I mean, we haven't got the space to do stuff like that, but certainly doing improvements on any capacity issues is a must for me. Difficulty being with the partners we work with, we have to be able to get the water away, and that involves usually watercourses and rivers, and then having the permissions, the acceptance, the approvals to do discharges to increase the size of things. If our network goes into Welsh Water, getting the approval to connect any additional drainage into those systems is extremely difficult. So there are a lot of fights in terms of how we deal with it. But short answer is yes, great idea. We'll do it whenever we can.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you for that very full answer. Has anyone else got any questions? Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, I just wanted to touch on, even though it's not off topic really, because it is, my eyes are certainly improving things. Is and I referenced it in Cabinet last week, is the excellent work being done on the Sandfields rain gardens, and if anyone gets a chance to pop over and have a look at the work that's done outside of St Helens Primary School is brilliant, and we've got plans for further works for the outside of the Westbourne as well. So these, I really like the nature additions to these kind of things, if I'm honest. I think it brightens the area up a little bit, as well as having being a solid feature. And I just want to thank both traffic and highways maintenance, so Bob and Matt's team, and nature conservation, because it was really a bit of a partnership working to get these schemes forward, really. Yeah, I think they're fantastic. So more of them I'd like to see you if budgets allow.
Yeah, I've seen them. It's a good scheme. There's a very good chippy round the corner.
Yes.
But you made a reference, or we've all made references to SAB, but I've got a particular problem with these attenuation ponds, and Matt knows this, in planning. I don't think sometimes they actually put in properly, or just a safety reason, I'm against them, because sometimes they say, oh, they're just a bed of reeds and the water, will go up and down. But considering the rainfall we get, how successful are they going to be? Or are they going to overspill and cause flooding? Because we were talking about one in West Cross a few years ago at the top of Chestnut Avenue, and I know Councillor Keaton and myself were not very happy. I'm sorry, Councillor Keaton, I'm putting words in your mouth about the actual pond and where they were going to be situated. Have we got better designs for them now that they should be doing what they should do? Because, you know, when they're empty, young people can still fall into them as much as when they're full of water. And we do say, in some cases, we cover them, but if it's a large pond, how are you going to cover it? Are you going to put fencing around it? And what do children do? Climb up the fencing.
As Bob's already alluded to, the SAB is still relatively new, and it's all predicated around dealing with surface water on site. It's predicated with trying to reduce the use of like pipe networks. Can we store it on top of the ground, and can we let it infiltrate? Yeah, in terms of basins, they would be designed for sort of 1 in 100 year flood, so that it can take a lot of water, and then it depends on the size of the basin that you need in order to cater for your water. How deep is it? Can it be a big shallow basin, or does it need to be a smaller, deeper one? And yeah, then a view on whether that needs to be fenced off. I mean, I'm not a fan of covering stuff up, because I think that sort of goes against the ethos of what the SAB's supposed to be doing, I think, doesn't it? And it generally causes you problems in the long run. But yeah, it's still emerging.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody? Oh, Councillor Keaton.
Yes, the one in Chestnut didn't go ahead anyway, Chair, but I must admit, we're looking forward to doing a project ourselves in the woods in West Cross, and we will be hopefully putting a few of these ponds in, as it were. And I've come to the conclusion we just need them because of the heavy rainfall, and there's people flooding at the bottom of the woods, and we just need to put them places in our green spaces. And hopefully they'll be good for nature as well. So fingers crossed. Thanks.
We will watch it with interest. Okay, has anybody else got anything to ask or say? Chris. Oh, Chris.
It was just on the it was just on the point of ponds. They also need to be sort of looked after so they don't silt up, so the capacity remains. A good example is one top of Klein Gardens, which is silting right up, and it's not holding as much water back from Blackpill as it used to.
So somebody will have to go along and clean it out. Is it in the park itself? Yes. Oh, it's parks then. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Chris. You're on the same page. Right. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for coming. It's been very informative as always. So you're free to go. We've only going to discuss our work plan. Councillor Stevens, you're back here next time again. Yes. March. You're right. It's not till March. March the 24th, and it's biodiversity and resilience of ecosystems duty action. You're understood all that. And you're also here for the air quality management. No, you're not. It's Councillor Andrew Williams and Tom Price. So there we are. Well, thank you all again for coming. And we'll see Councillor Stevens. I know I see him in council this week, but I'll see him in this meeting in March. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks all.